You're listening to the Heroes Power Hour presented by BlizzPro.com. Your host, Balrog Fan VP, and co-host, Zexorus and DJ Tyrant. Hello everyone, welcome to the Heroes Power. I forgot to have my chat messaging program up for Charlie to bring Charlie into this, so here we are, Heroes Power, episode 49. How are you guys doing?
Oh my god, Jimmy.
How's Jimmy, it going? What are you doing?
Oh, I so screwed it up. I apologize for that.
Welcome to episode 49. I'm so glad everyone's here. I hope you all had wonderful Valentine's Day. We have a special Valentine's Day poem to open the show, shared to Mr. DJ Tyrant's wall. And it goes a little something like this. Roses are red, daisies are white. Okay, everyone, stay tight. That made me smile so much.
Yeah, that was my friend John Bressa. We go way back to my Dance Dance Revolution days in the community. So, yeah, he found that like everyone else and continues to pester me about it, which is fine. I mean, it's never going to die, so might as well just embrace it at this point.
At this point, just stay tight. So, we have another great week here. Willie, Zex, I'm sure you all know DJ Tyrant. We just introduced him. He's big time, so I don't really even need to introduce him. Willie, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic. I've got, if you ever see me turn my head this episode for people watching, I've got Street Fighter V going on behind me, and I'm really kind of obsessed with it at the moment.
Lupe Fiasco's game.
Yeah, Lupe Fiasco beats Daigo. Street Fighter V will never have a bigger moment than that.
No collusion, just straight skill.
Oh my gosh.
So
you can hear the FTC already raging at you.
Oh boy! All right, we're off to a roaring start here on episode 49. Well, we had a pretty big week in this game of Heroes. In this game for Heroes of the Storm, DJ, I know you cast it for Heroes Hype last week and saw some pretty interesting stuff. Why don't you tell some people about that?
Yeah, interesting is a word for it. So it was Loki X5 and Psycom Esports in the grand finals, and the map was the desert one. Why do I always screw up this name? Sky Temple. It's like one of my favorite maps. Anyways, they go ahead and draft Medic, Tychus, Rhaegar. It was Raynor and forget what the fifth was. But anyways, they ended up doing a medevac build with Sanctification and Bloodlust. And they did it 3 times, and that was all it needed to do to kill the core. And they were down 3 levels and won in 12 minutes.
Yeah,
it was very silly.
Yeah, you have a video. You shared the video on your Twitter, right?
Yeah, correct. I'll actually show that again, so you guys can see it.
It's pretty amazing, honestly.
It was funny.
I've never seen anything like that. And it's interesting to see kind of like random jank like that. You wonder if it would work, like at the pro level.
Mm-hmm.
If something like that would ever be allowed to be accomplished.
Yeah,
because really all you got to do is take out a keep.
Yeah, they did basically sack 2 to take out the top keep with a medevac drop there, which I mean, in the grand scheme of things isn't too bad because you're only like level 11 at that point, so the death timer's relatively low. And if that's your strategy to begin with anyways, you're unconcerned with team fights at all.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you might be able to steal a match with it, but you'll never do it more than once.
No, it was definitely a game 3 match point style of strategy.
Like that reminds me of the Abathur Zagara nonsense where Zag would take Nidus Canal.
Yeah,
Nidus. And then just cheese with Abathur.
Abathur would clone them, and they'd come in, and then there'd be those global global spawns, and yeah, that was an interesting thing. That was kind of broke. Like this just feels like an abuse of the medic's medevac in a way that we kind of expected to see initially. Because when everyone first saw medevac, they were like, "Oh yeah, people are going to be diving stuff like crazy," and really it was just like, "Nah, nobody uses medevac." But I do feel like medevac has some cool uses, and it probably should see more play than it actually does.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know what they could do to change it to make it more appealing to people because it's already on a low enough cooldown as it is. Like,
I think what it is just stim drone's too good.
yeah,
Like it's hard to pass on stim drone.
especially in the meta we're at right now, where like you have Falstad and Raynor, kind of as your
Thrall,
good auto attacks.
especially.
Thrall as well. Yes, I keep.
Yeah. Or even, I mean, it's even good on tanks right now. There are certain tanks, I mean, that just are trying to get in there and do attacks, and if you give them move speed and extra attack speed, it can be devastating.
Yeah, for sure.
So we were, Team Bliss Pro made its second official showing, our third match in Chair League, our second as a team. And Zexorus, you want to talk about that a little bit, since you were the star of the show, as they say, with a certain drunken panda that you may have picked?
Yeah, we didn't come out with a win like we had hoped, but
Oh.
sadly, but we got to pick the team that we wanted for the most part.
And shouts out to Team Bark. They played really good. They
Yeah.
capitalized on a couple of mistakes we made, and they used that for the win.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Chair League's actually in chat. Hi, Chair League. Thank you guys. You guys are
Hi,
awesome.
Chair League.
Cheer League,
Love you guys.
best thing for the amateur community going right now. Everybody who wants to play with 4 other friends, or even just be a solo sort of free agent and join a team, check out Cheer League, because it's a great way to kind of experience competitive play without having to go against the pros or anything like that. So definitely go to Cheer League.
But yeah, like apparently they had a pro player by the name of Equinox on their on Team Bark,
Yeah.
which I assume it was, and I guess they had another manager, but I don't think they were expecting the Chen pick, because I pretty much had free reign to do whatever I wanted that early game,
Yeah.
and I abused that fact with great gusto.
I mean, I think like I don't know. It was okay. Like it wasn't like I felt like we were going against a pro team. I just felt like the competition was good.
Yeah, no. I mean, when you have a pro player as expected, or when you have a pro player helping direct you, it makes you that much better.
Exactly.
Like,
and shouts out to
because they-
Equinox for helping out like Bark. I don't know how many of those team members were like new or amateurs or pros. Like I didn't really do a lot of research. We just kind of recognized Equinox immediately, and we were like, "Oh, we better ban Kerrigan."
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
know Artemis. Artemis is the manager for Resurgence.
thank you. That was the other one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she played a pretty good
No, she's
Rhaegar.
good. She really loves Rhaegar. So
Yeah, but I mean, and I got to play Chen the way I felt Chen should be played, which is basically run around and be a giant jerk to everybody.
Mhm.
Like, push them back, set them on fire, and then grab the globe and go somewhere else if you don't get the kill. You know?
Yeah.
And there was a couple of misplays we had there at the end. Trying to take the bus, probably not the best idea we had.
that was a hard
And-
call to make, though. Like,
Yeah. And
I
going
think
back
if
going
Thrall
back and
didn't
watching,
have... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, but like going back and watching the video, they knew we were doing boss. Like there was
Yeah.
zero doubt in my mind, because right before we got that pick, they were attempting boss, and then they saw us coming in.
They literally moved into the fog of war as we moved up to the boss. Like we had
Yep.
no idea they were just.
It was
Awesome.
a perfect movement on their part,
Yeah.
and then they just bopped us with that Sunder, Ring of Frost, and Apocalypse combo, and like I was the only one that got out just because Chen is just impossible to kill.
Silly.
It takes a silly amount of effort to kill him when he's on the run.
Yeah. No, it
And then
overall.
and
it
then
was,
the game ending fight was, kind of hard. Looking back on it, we really should have taken that fight. It was a narrow corridor against a Diablo, a Thrall, and a Jaina, all with their cooldowns off, all with their ultimates off cooldown, and that just did not end well for us.
No,
but yeah,
Mark
and there was
they recognized it and pushed out the keep, pushed out the core for the win, and
yeah,
I mean, they played really good too. I mean, we controlled the early game. Then there was a lot of trading in the mid game, and we gave up the late game. I'm not upset by the match. I think it was a well played match, and it's a lot of fun. And I can't recommend Chair League enough.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah, if you were even remotely on any level interested in Heroes of the Storm, and you feel like you are even remotely competent at the game, get into Chair League.
Yep, Jimmy,
it will make you a better player.
Oh, I just thought it was funny. It was kind of the opposite happened last week for you guys. I was watching it. You guys had a really rough start, and you kind of brought it back. So that just shows
one
how
of the things
crazy
we worked
the game
on
is.
too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, we were like, okay, we need to be better at moving and rotating, and it was something we kept in mind. Probably one of our better players on our team, Purple, he pointed it out. Like, our rotations are not what they should be. We play safe and then try to dominate team fights, which does work sometimes, but
you have to have the right setup.
Yeah, we got to put it all together, and it's just so much fun to learn and play like this because we know the game and we play the game a lot and we love it, but you won't see us up winning any BlizzCons anytime soon. So.
Not with that attitude.
I know. Maybe 2017 is our year.
There you go.
Maybe. Yes, Shadow. I was an incredibly happy panda that game.
Yeah. No, it was a fun match, and if you want to check it out, I know we've all tweeted it out on our Twitter, so go ahead and check out our Twitter below our names, at BalrogFanBP, at Zexorus, or at DJ Tyrant, and you can check out the match and see what Chair League's all about. So we had another balance change last week, and we're getting another one tomorrow. And I mean, this week has been sort of kind of what we expected. Less Kelthus. Nova's improvements were nice. I don't think the changes to Thrall, Rhaegar, or Diablo in any way made them worse picks, or even made them less of top tier picks for their class. But I don't know where you guys are at. I still feel like I'm seeing a lot of them. Jimmy, I know you watched what was going on in Heroes Hype shortly after the balance change. What did you see?
The changes really didn't seem to affect the meta too much, at least initially. I mean, people were still picking Falstad. They were really taking away the auto attack of both Jaina and Kael'thas at this point, and I didn't see a whole lot different with Thrall as far as damage output. I mean, it's definitely a little less, but it didn't seem to really affect people's picking of Thrall there. Li Ming got picked up a couple of games, and we got to see her pretty much dominate every game except for that last game, like we talked about, because they avoided team fights. They just they didn't have to deal with Li Ming, basically. And the only other thing, just in general, is I'm a little worried about Lost Vikings. I mean, obviously we talk about this all the time. Hotslog is not the end-all be-all of what Blizzard is looking at, but I think it's a good indicator of what they're looking at. Lost Vikings are above 55% win rate, and I know Blizzard has talked about if heroes are above 55%, they're definitely going to look at them. So I'm a little concerned about my Lost Vikings right now.
Yeah, I think they're kind of on the fringe there. We'll see if they get any attention. I mean, the Lost Vikings have gone primarily untouched except for one rebalance, so it wouldn't surprise me either way, honestly. I feel like Lost Vikings pick percentage is so low, they're like,
I know, it's interesting, because if you look at the games played, Li Ming at 113,000, Lost Vikings at 4,300 games.
Yeah.
Significantly less.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it, Li Ming's a brain-dead hero.
She is. Oh, she definitely is. Her range and her damage and her ability to control space. I mean, they need to do some sort of changes to her. We talked about it on the Wednesday patch issue that we do. That maybe they need to either up her mana consumption or lower her range, just to make her more. And
I think we were talking about
skill-based character.
I think we were talking about moving Essa Johan or changing it in some way. I don't know how you change it though.
I think it's too early to have that amount of control.
It is so early. Oh my gosh!
Quickly. So, I mean, we'll see
And
what Blizzard has in mind tomorrow.
and to continue on my point, Lost Vikings is a really high skill cap hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you have to have amazing map awareness on top of microing skills to be able to use Vikings effectively to benefit your team.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have 3 anchors weighing your team down.
And I think that's part of the reason they were free this last week, because Blizzard's probably going, we might need to address Lost Vikings soon, because they've been consistently around 54 to 57 win percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what happens when we open it up to everyone having the option to pick Lost Vikings, and see what kind of data we can gather there, because it's just hard to tell, because they're specialist niche characters that not many people want to touch. Do they have a high win percentage because the people who pick them love them so much, or do they have a high win percentage because something's wrong with their character design? And I'm sure that's why they were opened up, because that's only the second time they've been free, and the first time since we got
launch.
Out of beta.
Yeah.
So
I personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with Vikings.
yeah,
I don't either.
I can't. Going through their skill set, their talent lists and stuff, like, I can't really think of anything that could be changed that wouldn't absolutely ruin the character.
yeah, it's tough to call. I mean, sometimes it feels like their ability to take merc camps is a bit much on top of how well they are at pushing and soaking. But I don't know. I feel like the longboat changes were enough, because the main problem was how good longboat was.
Yeah.
And then they changed that, and it kind of went down. Like, you can at least punish longboat now.
And also, I think we're done with Lost Vikings talking about him, I guess. Are we? Or
No,
did you have more?
no, we've got plenty of time to talk about all this stuff, because this is just kind of open. I mean, there's been so many changes. I just want to touch on, like, random stuff that's been happening throughout.
I just wanted to really quickly mention, though, I just noticed this on Hotslog. Kael'thas is third from the bottom. He lost 9.5% win rate over last week.
Yeah, there's been definitely a drop-off in Kael'thas play, but I think part of that is just the fact that he is not as easy to use anymore as the most popular mage right now, Li Ming. But that being said, last night we took Kael'thas in Chair League and he put in work. It's not like Kael'thas is bad. He's not the strongest mage in the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fair. But
yeah, for sure.
People who love Kael'thas, like, and that's the good part about changing characters to being less brain dead. You want people to have a hero pool of basically between 3 and 5 characters they really love and really want to play. You don't want anybody to be able to pick up you don't want somebody who primarily plays a tank all the time to just suddenly go, hey, I can use Li Ming and dominate with her, even though it's not my playstyle at all. That's more of a kind of a hint that a character's design might be too easy to use, or their skills might be a bit overpowered. There's just something wrong with Li Ming, and I hope they address it soon, because she's probably, I don't know, the only new hero to come about recently anyways that's just had such an impact in such like a strong way.
Yeah, I think since
It's too
Kael'thas, basically.
Yeah. And even Kael'thas early, he didn't feel like this strong, I don't think, because he still had to hit his stuns, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Li Ming can be miles away and affect the game, it feels like.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I think, like, you don't even really have to touch somebody directly with the orb. It has such a deceptive pull range that you think you're safe and you're really not.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been, I mean, it's guys, there's been so many changes in the last 4 weeks, and it's been kind of this. I'm glad that we're finding this ground for all these characters, and I do really look forward to what's going to happen tomorrow, because it's yet another balance change. It could change the way everything plays again for another week, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, we talked about it before the show. Muradin, I mean, he was every tank player's darling pick, and now you barely see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, well, you don't barely see him, but you see him in a little bit of a different role. I think Willie was talking about. You see him more as a bruiser and not as much as a frontline tank. I mean, I think we're kind of heading back into a double warrior meta, especially with the rise of Diablo and Stitches like really coming to the forefront again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the mini stun just like completely just
Changed
slapped Murden back to the mountain in terms of his ability to be that main tank. But instead, they gave him all that extra health, and you see him just in the front line just punching people in the face instead, rather than trying to single out anyone who needs to be interrupted. So... But that said, he's still not getting really picked that often. Like people have switched over to Johanna and again Stitches, Diablo. Like those are like the big three right now.
Yeah, Diablo's quickly becoming a problem. I think they're going to have to address Apocalypse in some way. Maybe give it a bigger cooldown or something because it's just seeing so much play right now.
Yeah.
His ability to just get in there and disrupt team positioning and not really be punished too hard. I don't know. I feel like Apocalypse is probably the thing that makes it all go too hard, though, because Diablo should be a guy who gets in there. Mm-hmm. It's been his kit since the beginning. Yeah. And I don't want to see that play. I love Diablo, or see that change, because I love the way Diablo plays.
And we know how heartbroken you were when they first changed Diablo many months ago.
Oh yeah, when he initially got this like ninja nerf, and I mean, well, it wasn't really a ninja nerf. It was an outright nerf. And then when the scaling changes happened, he jumped right back into the forefront. Like as soon as it went to percentage scaling, he was an amazing hero again. Mm-hmm. So I think overall percentage scaling has been really good for the game, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these like changes now, where they have to balance it every Wednesday and kind of like figure out what they want to do with these various heroes who are on the high and low end of things. I mean, we went into this 4 weeks ago with Greymane being so low. Like, he just wasn't a guy who was picked and used a lot or picked or used effectively. And now all of a sudden he's at a comfortable, like, right in that wheelhouse of Vala where he's just kind of perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with Greymane. I'm never mad to have a good Greymane on my team, and I'm never like upset like fighting a good Greymane because I feel like they're earning it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the kind of balance I'm sure Blizzard is trying to attain with all these characters.
Yeah.
Where you're happy to have a good one on your team, and you don't feel like you're being cheesed out when you're going against a good one.
Yeah.
And
like the complete opposite of Li Ming.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And a little bit of an argument here. Do you almost think these changes are coming too quick? Like they're not letting the meta sit and simmer on these changes as they come? Because this is going to be the 5th week in a row that we've had changes now.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because they're small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like these are minor adjustments. Now, I highly suspect that they're going to add Brewmaster. An example, they're going to add Brewmaster balance to Chen's baseline, like because literally that I'm just going to throw a number out here. That talent has to be taken at least 75% of the time. Someone can look that up on Hot Slugs while I blather on, but like that's a major change. You know, all these changes we've been seeing, these other patches. These are minor tweaks. You know, I mean, it shifts the meta a little bit, but the overall meta stays the same. You're still looking at strong frontliners, you know, backed up by, you know, good bursty damage dealers in the back line.
82%, by the way.
82% on yeah, there's like Rhaegar getting the Wolf Lunge, there's no way that's not getting added to Chen's baseline. And if that happens, like, that's going to put him at the forefront.
I mean, he's already jumped up in percentage of wins and whatnot. I mean, he's sitting comfortably right in the middle at 50% now, whereas people used to make fun of Chen, and then suddenly you see him in a couple of pro games and whatnot, and he's on everybody's mind again.
That makes me sad because I still liked him when he was like, oh, it's a Chen.
Yeah.
We lost, and then you get styled on, you know, and, oh, wait, Chen can be good?
Yeah, I mean that's the fun part about picking lesser respected heroes.
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons we really like the Arthas pick when we're playing with Digi and whatnot. I mean, they're just heroes that people have. They go in like either fearing or disrespecting, and those perceptions and opinions can be changed very quick if you spend the whole game getting bodied by one of those heroes or blowing up one of those heroes. So a lot of it is in the hands of the player, but sometimes the opinion is dictated by what people watch in the pro scene and the tournaments and whatnot. And they don't see certain heroes get picked and immediately assume, well, they're not being picked because they're bad heroes. Everybody should be playing Li Ming, Kel'Thas, Rhaegar, whatever. But in reality, all it takes is one pro player to make a character look good. So just put in the effort with the character you like. I mean, don't let anybody tell. If you know you can make a character work, don't let anybody tell you it's a garbage pick.
I mean,
That's wrong.
one of our other players on the Blizz Pro team, Digi, he plays Arthas, and
Yeah.
he just wrecks face with Arthas, and
Oh, yeah.
people don't necessarily consider Arthas to be that great of a hero right now. I mean, in the meta, it's a little different maybe in Europe and in Korea right now, but I know in North America he is almost never picked in high-level games.
Yeah.
And think about the state of Falstad and Tyrael before the BlizzCon turn, the big BlizzCon World Championship last year. Nobody was picking those heroes consistently, and all of a sudden you see a lot of them. The heroes are respected picks. Sanctification's huge. People love having Falstad's mobility. I mean, it's one of these things where a lot of people just kind of go with the flow and believe what the masses tell them. And if you like a character and want to play him, just do it. You
Yeah,
can make
absolutely.
any character in this game work. There's nobody that's so bad they're unpickable. So I mean, there's been so many.
Speaking of unpickable,
Where are we going with that?
I don't know. We'll get to it soon enough.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so well, there's just been so many changes these last 4 weeks, and there's going to be another one tomorrow. It's been very exciting to kind of keep up on and watch, and I think it's good for the game. So I hope Blizzard keeps it coming until they find the balance that they're looking for, because that seems to be the reason for all of this. They're not quite happy where things are right now, and they're going to keep adjusting until they are. So there was the Heroes Rising tournament last week, which I know Willie and Jimmy paid a lot of attention to, and were on it on the weekend. I didn't get to watch very much of it, but I kind of got the report. We'd like to talk about that a little bit. Who were you speaking of there, Willie? Which hero that's considered bad suddenly got picked?
Cho'Gall.
Oh,
There was more than a few Cho'Galls that got picked during the recent, I think it was the Enter the Storm tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just ridiculous because it wasn't, I see where they were going with it. It was never on big maps. It was always on like really tiny maps, like Tomb of the Spider Queen, Dragonshire. I think there was another one that escapes me, but it like I see where they were going with it, and like one. And the two teams escaped me, but it was game one, and then it turned into game two. So the game one, Cho'Gall lost, and then the opposite team picked Cho'Gall and proceeded to just absolutely obliterate them. And I feel so bad because I can't remember it, but it was towards the end of the tournament, and like they just Cho'Gall on small maps is just absolutely ridiculous if you set it up
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I remember yelling at you on Facebook a couple weeks ago when the North American qualifiers were on, and it was on Tomb of the Spider Queen, and like there was just no stopping the Cho'Gall. It was silly.
We were yeah. We're a friend. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get over this chest
Yeah,
cold.
no worries.
It's not really working. A friend of mine was actually in a game that the game you're specifically talking about, and they just got destroyed on that map. It wasn't even remotely close. That Cho'Gall just threw all five of them against the wall. It's like, you're coming with me, boys. You know, and
Yeah.
it was but like it was weird watching that because I've been on the Cho'Gall hate wagon for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and Charlie, he's been like, just wait. There's going to be a pro team that picks him, and we're going to see what he can really do. And
here we are. Talking about
here
it.
we are. Charlie was right, and Cho'Gall is incredibly viable on small maps. Like, it just blew my mind. Like, it just blew my mind the amount of work that those two could get done just by themselves. There were several situations where that Cho'Gall was 1v3 and winning.
Yeah. I mean, Cho'Gall's damage has always been impressive from the jump. And there's something to be said about a team that knows how to use two bodies in one space, constantly working together. And that's kind of why I made that prediction. It was just one of those things where it's like, he's going to be one of the hardest characters to use. Harder than Lost Vikings even. Harder than Abathur.
Mm-hmm.
He's just that. His skill cap is so high because it takes two players working with one mind to make him work the way he's supposed to, which is near impossible in some situations, especially when you're just messing around in Quick Matcher. But I guarantee there's two pro players who are just working on every bit of timing, every little mix-up, every little whatever they can think of to make Cho'Gall work, and I think we're finally seeing some of that come to fruition now, just because, I mean, his strength is that he's two heroes in one. It's his weakness and his strength, but if you can exploit the fact that it's a huge strength, he's a scary guy to deal with because, yeah, when you think about 2v3s, how many times have you seen 2v3s come out on the end, on the upside for the come out in favor of the people who were on the 2 side because they were up a level? You see it a lot. So when you think about the fact that one hero can do that by themselves against 3 players, it can be demoralizing.
Yeah, absolutely. God, it's just
the other thing I saw really was.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you still wanting to talk about Cho'Gall? I was going to transition.
Well, yeah, I was going to say one thing. Thank you. Or TY Red Baron mentioned that Cho'Gall was amazing in Towers of Doom. He's amazing on Towers of Doom. Did you guys see any of that this weekend?
I think I did.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But
I mean, I can see why. It's a nice small map. He roams around. Fights take place in a centralized location where he can kind of pull people away from things or just be a disruptive, strong force in those fights. So.
Yeah. The thing I was going to mention was, and like, Cho'Gall is such a niche pick that you're not going to see it coming the first time to counterpick it. You know, you're not going to be able to take that weird counterpick of Anubarak and Stitches and just gorge the Cho'Gall under tower. You know, Cocoon and hook him backwards.
Cocoon and Rip.
Yeah. Because that was disgustingly effective.
Anubarak's another guy who's coming way back in with that web wrap.
Oh yeah, the web wrap is so good.
Yeah.
I
think it's one of the best counters for Li Ming right now, honestly. Just take her out of the fight and deal with the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
What were you going to transition to, Jimmy?
I was just going to transition to how the Assassins lineup has kind of changed. I mean, for the NA qualifiers, we still haven't seen Li Ming because she's not available yet. We will see her at the LA Championships in 2 weeks. The 27th, 28th of this month. But we saw a lot of Lunara and a lot of Greymane this last weekend, during the qualifiers, the last chance qualifiers, and when Team Blaze qualified last week as well through the number 3 qualifier. But seeing Lunara come kind of to fruition into what I think Blizzard really wanted her to be at first is really cool, and seeing the pro players really take advantage of her toolkit as it's gotten fixed up.
And that's the benefit of a lot of these minor adjustments. I mean, they weren't huge adjustments to Lunara and Greymane, and they were just kind of quality of life changes over 2 balance change patches. And all of a sudden, yeah, like you said, they're there. They're in the meta. They're strong. Lunara especially, she's a hero whose damage output is just consistent and it's downright
sneaky.
Powerful. Yeah, it's sneaky.
Yeah.
That's the perfect word. She's got the best sneaky damage in this game. It's I'm used to being able to stand here, and Lunara punishes you for that, which it's fun to see because she can hurt tanks like
Oh, yeah.
nobody else. Like,
Mhm.
it's not burst damage; it's the sustained, sneaky damage that just constantly punishes a tank for being too far out. So you have to
Yeah.
adjust, play different. She's still squishy, but
Yeah. Speaking of squishy, Raynor, he got changed like 3 weeks ago or whatever it was.
oh yeah,
He's still pretty high up there. I really thought his changes were going to really hurt him a lot, but he seems to be in an okay place still.
yeah.
Feel
It
like.
seems like they just took away his early game dominance
Hmm.
because he was way too good in the early game. He almost played like like you know how you're in a lane against like a Lily or something, and you just can't push her off a lane. Like no matter what you do, she just stands there and it's like haha, heals, bruise, snakes, whatever. I don't care. You're blind. Let me keep walking down this lane. I'm healing my lane partner, whatever. Like when you're going against a good sustain like that, it's a nightmare early, but it's not as impactful late because they don't suddenly scale into a ton of damage. That was the main problem with Raynor. So like players who like Raynor and are good with Raynor, they adapt it and learn to play a little safer in the early game. So his damage is still there. He's not the powerhouse of sustain that he was. Which I think is going to be the changes we see to Thrall too. Like he should be able to keep his damage. He should be able to keep his Sundering, which is probably one of the best alts in the game right now.
Yeah,
For-
oh yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
I don't want to see a change to that. I have no problem with Sundering because it's a skill shot. You have to line it up right. That you take advantage of a team's dispositioning to create even more favorable positioning for your team, and it's not like it does a ton of damage or anything. The main thing that's wrong with Thrall. Did I say Rhaegar earlier? I think I did.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
did.
Thrall.
Get your wolf guys straight, please.
Yeah, I can't get my wolf guys straight. That's a little inside joke. Yeah, but the main problem with Thrall is that he has way too much sustain for doing what he does. You feel like you can't move him off of spot he wants to be on, especially 1v1. So I feel like that's where we're going to go ahead and see some changes with Thrall this coming, probably tomorrow, I would imagine.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think the Thrall changes are going to come just yet. I don't think he's become that. He's a big threat, but he's not.
A bannable threat.
Right. Like, you can deal with him. You're not afraid to let him through. As
Yeah.
opposed to letting that Li Ming through or letting that Uther through. Things like that. I don't think he's hit that critical mass of unbeatability. Like old KT or old Stitches even with the stun slam.
And Purple points out a great point, which I points out something great, which I didn't really think of. Sustain damage, sustain changes are a big on-off switch. If you change his sustain too much, he's going to fall out of the meta completely. So
Yeah.
it's the nature of the beast with heroes. I mean, it's a lot of other MOBAs, they don't have the kind of healing that Heroes has, so it's kind of to
Yeah.
offset the whole focused item building and gold farming and whatnot. So yeah, I can see why it would be tough to change his sustain. Maybe just a slightly bigger cooldown on Sundering then, I don't know.
They just did that though.
That was one of the changes recently?
I thought so.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Let me double check.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I know they changed Thrall, but I thought it was just basic attack damage last week. And but if Sundering went up,
Yeah.
I'm still
Up 10 seconds from 70 to 80.
Oh, okay, wow. Well, it's still good.
It is still good. I
It's
mean,
still
really good.
putting a timer on, additional timer on, isn't going to lessen its effectiveness, really.
Yeah. Well, maybe it just needs a little
Yeah.
damage. I don't know. It's tough to call. I don't know how they balance all this stuff because you change one thing and it affects 5 different heroes. So, kudos to Blizzard for getting it as close as it's been ever lately, honestly. Because there are very few heroes which are just garbage picks right now.
Yeah, well, and like you were saying a couple of weeks ago, this is the most fun that you said you've had in Heroes lately. And I have to agree with you. It's the most fun I've had in Heroes lately. Just the hero diversity, and it feels just much better than it has.
Yeah, no, we're seeing a lot more variety on the pro scene. Just playing games in general. In quick match, you see stuff you might not have seen a little while ago. It's not it's not auto pick anymore, which is a nice feel. You don't want to go into a game knowing like 8 of the 10 heroes you're going to see when you load up a game, because that gets cumbersome pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you. There's been a huge amount of hero diversity here recently. There's plenty. There's some specialists that just aren't getting love right now. Sylvanas, I don't see a whole lot of for. I know they're planning a Gazlo rework. He's not getting any love.
Yeah, he's probably the
I
biggest.
haven't seen an Abathur in a pro match in ages now. Like, you still don't see Murky. Like, I mean, and at one point, all of these picks were viable. I mean, granted, you saw Murky at BlizzCon, but, like, when have you seen Murky since then?
Yeah, Abathur we've seen a little bit. Some people are trying to get the Illidan, protect Illidan stuff going again. Yeah. I've seen it work a little bit here and there, but I don't think
the
it's quite there yet.
Count. Yeah.
If you're somehow allowed to pick Rhaegar, Illidan, and Abathur, it's a nasty.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I mean, throw a Tassadar in there for her support. And,
yeah,
it's never
nightmare fuel.
Yeah,
yeah, and specialists are the hardest heroes to balance, especially guys like Murky and Abathur, because you make a couple changes and they go from being garbage to broke. So
I mean, when was the last time you saw a Dunk Master come into a game?
Yeah, Asmodan's really fallen out of favor. He was really good there for a while, and then it's just ever since he got a little bit of a rework. I want to say like 5 months ago, and he's just kind of fallen.
Yeah, I remember I know this is before all these changes, but Team Blaze was playing King of Blades, I think, and they tried Asmo against him, and it just didn't work for them.
Yeah, there's definitely something off with a few of the specialist kits, Gazlo, Asmodan, being some of the ones that I think are more easily tweaked than characters like Murky and Abathur and Lost Vikings. I think those are harder heroes to balance and change without either making them too good or too bad. But
yeah, actually, come to think of it, I can't think of a whole lot of effective specialist picks that have been in. Okay, Zag doesn't count. She's
Zebo's still good, but he's definitely fallen out of love a bit too.
Yeah, I can't remember when the last time I saw a Nazebo pick. You know, he was and it was one of those specialists where you saw him picked constantly, and then they adjusted his talents, and now he's almost never picked. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it should be interesting to see how. I mean, as we said, you guys have been watching a lot of the pro scene. We've been kind of had our finger on the pulse of the balance changes every Wednesday. You can check out our balance change show, usually on Wednesday around 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. And we talk about what we think is going to come, and then we usually follow it up on this show to talk a little bit about what actually did happen. So, I mean, it's just an exciting time to be a Heroes player, especially if you've been like kind of plugged in for a while now and you're feeling like you got bored with what was going on. Now all of a sudden there's just a lot of things that are changing, and it's exciting for characters or for players who like certain characters. I mean, if you initially loved the release of Greymane and wanted to play him but were disappointed, I was like that with Lunara, and I love playing Lunara right now. So just stay tuned, because Blizzard is definitely showing this game a lot of love.
Shouldn't people stay tight?
People should stay tight, not stay tuned. Yeah, I'm sorry. Stay tight, because Blizzard's got a lot of changes coming.
Get the memes right.
I know. What's wrong with me? So every week we try to find a topic on Reddit, keep apprised of what's going on in the community's mind, and we call this topic "What's Hot on Reddit?" Some kind of sound clip with a sizzle and fire. And, yep, there we go. Got it.
Willie, your cat's looking at you like, what the heck?
What the heck is this kid doing? So we've got this week was forwarded to me, brought to me and DJ's attention by one Zexorus, aka Willie, and it is titled "The Excessive Burst of the Meta is Not the Problem. Blizzard, just give me one chance to voice my opinion." This was submitted by Big Palm Tree. It's got quite a few upvotes, and he made a lot of great points in this thread. Willie, I know you kind of like you read this front to back. I know I've read it a lot. Jimmy looked over it. He's a busy man. We'll start with you, Willie. What do you think?
Um, I'm kind of conflicted on it because I like the bursty meta right now with you know, mage type assassins being the hot picks.
Mm-hmm.
I like quick kills. I like decisive victories. And
Yes.
that's what mages bring to the table. They bring that huge amount of damage to finish people off quickly. But on the same note, it gets a bit obsessive.
Yep.
Like what happens when you come up against you've got your bursty mages, and then you come up against the triple tank comp with the Morales and I don't know, another healer.
Yeah.
You're not going to kill them in time. They're going to simply just out-sustain you 100% of the time just because they can soak all that damage.
Yep.
So I understand, I kind of understand where this post is coming from, and the bursty meta also neglects other really good heroes. Like we were just talking about Thrall. Another reason why Thrall isn't as feared as he is because there's burst in the game. There's a great amount of burst. If you can kill a Thrall before his sustain kicks in, Thrall's never going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Raynor. If you just blow him up as quickly as possible, that innate healing of his never has a chance to kick in and save him.
Yeah.
So and this guy makes some really, really good points on, a possible solution, and keep the bursty meta. And Jimmy, what about you? I'm sorry, Jimmy. You're the least caught up. I love you. Charlie, what did you think personally?
Well, I think there's one line in here where he sums it up perfectly. The mage assassin meta is not bad because of burstiness. It's bad because mages can perform so well, since there are few options to deal with powerful spells, but so many options against strong auto attacks. He's, of course, referring to things like block, imposing presence, and blind, which mitigates the main damage function of an auto attack assassin. And we almost have no silences. The only two silences in this game are ultimates.
And one's not even picked.
Yeah, one you do not see. Like you might see Rhaegar. You might see Malfurion take it in a double support comp, but that's about it. And obviously Sylvanas' silence arrow is amazing.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that reminds me of a slight tangent. But I saw on Heroes Hype last week a double support comp, and they ran Uther as a damage Uther with the Divine Storm. It was really interesting. And that kind of leads into this a little bit, just because of the auto attack bursty heroes and talking to that.
He can run into that and shut that down with that. Where Malfurion has a much harder time running into that and shutting. Uther has to run into the front line and hit
regardless,
R and then easily escape. Malfurion has to run into the back line and hit R, which will probably get him killed.
Yeah, and this thread was also talking about, I think, was it the picks where, like, it's like if you go into Hero League and you see first pick something like Butcher, you're like, oh, we know how to deal with that. We can counterpick that. With Kael'thas, the options are a little bit more limited in that respect, and it's a scary first pick versus something like a Butcher.
And that sums it up. There's very little in the way of dealing with bursting ability damage, which, as Willie said, it's not a bad thing. There just needs to be options. There needs to be hero, like they did their little hand at it with Stitches, like, oh, Stitches is going to be our anti-mage tank, and really it was like, nah, Stitches is still the guy who just hooks people and does damage to them and punishes them. He's not picked ever because it's like, oh, well, they've got two mages on our team. We need Stitches. He's going to help. Like, it doesn't work that way because his kit isn't really that. I mean, you're not taking him because he's so good at mitigating the damage that mages can do. He just can get a hook on people and blow them up, regardless of whether or not they're auto attack or ability. So it's just one of those things where, I mean, targeted silences are an option. It depends on the cooldown. AoE silences are kind of things that should probably be reserved for ultimates, much like the silencing arrow and whatnot. Because that silencing arrow is devastating. Every time you get hit by that, you feel it. You're suddenly like, when you're an ability damage hero, you're like, I don't know what to do with my hero anymore. Do I just walk away? I guess I walk away. Like, that's really the only option you got.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the walk of shame, as Sylvanas initiates the walk of game. But the final edit here in this post, which I think is a good one, maybe a new debuff, much like Cleanse, or much like Blood for Blood, or whatever. Not necessarily; those aren't necessarily debuffs in their sense, but they're triggered skills that you can pick into. Something called Enfeeble, which reduces ability damage by X percentage. That way it wouldn't be impactful on tanks and support who rely on their CC instead of straight damage. It should have no effect on the healing, though. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, it only affects damage, and it wouldn't, like, reduce a healer's output all of a sudden. And I think that's probably the best bet. I think Enfeeble is actually the perfect word for it, too. Like, Blizzard, just make Enfeeble. Give some
like
tanks, give some people who dive into people, give the initiators, people who have to get in, and it would need to have like a fairly decent range to be able to touch the back line, especially when you're considering someone like Lei Ming, whose range is obnoxious. But it's almost like how Shrink Ray affects strong bruisers and strong assassins that are melee eccentric. Like I love Shrink Raying a Sonya or a Thrall. It really kind of hinders what they can do. And there needs to be something like that for mage assassins.
Actually, Mitch the Goat in chat brings kind of a good point, and it's maybe give a couple more heroes Shrink Ray.
It's an interesting thought.
Again, it's nice. It's 50% less damage, but in order, the characters who, I mean, I guess if you were somebody like Chen who could pick Shrink Ray at 13. I mean, your job could be jumping to the backline to shrink Li Ming or something. There are those options, because it is a 50% damage reduction and a 50% slow. I guess Enfeeble would just be more options to give ability power a straight reduction, as opposed to reducing, their damage output and their movement speed. So, I mean, there are a lot of options that could deal with this. I didn't even think of that Shrink Ray thing. It kind of threw me for a loop there, but it could definitely work.
Yeah. I mean, but then you got to rebalance. But then you have to rebalance because somebody's losing a talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, and I don't know. It's just something that needs at least a little bit of attention. Because I don't want, like you said in the beginning of all this, Willie, I really enjoy this meta. It's a lot funner than it's been in a while, and that's because it's not just stun heavy. No one likes losing control of their characters. No one likes being stunned out forever, and we saw a lot of that. And since there are no diminishing returns, it's still kind of existent, but it's not as prevalent as it was before. And you just need to have the option to counterpick. I think that's the main thing, and there are, as Jimmy stated and the post stated, there are no real ways to counterpick a team that shows, hey, we're going to do some mage bursts this game. And you're like, oh, no kidding. Okay, well, let's just pick what we're good at doing then.
It's true.
Anyways, that's pretty much that.
Yeah,
Again,
before we close out, though, I want to do something super quick. I didn't tell you guys about this, but...
let me just tell you a thing real quick.
Okay.
Be sure to
Go
go to Reddit, Heroes of the Storm. /r/Heroes of the Storm. Lots of great info. The devs are always looking at it. They've said they look at it. They enjoy hearing back from the community, and you can find some great articles, info, people talking about the game. Make sure you're going to Reddit and checking out the Heroes of the Storm post. Okay, Jimmy, go ahead.
All right. Since we have a lot of people in chat tonight really talking with us, I really appreciate that. I wanted to give away a Succubus Kerrigan skin. So if you are interested, go ahead and press one chat. I'll randomly pick somebody, and I think that would be awesome if you guys are interested.
Zexorus has already hit his one. He's in. Not at all. So yeah, we'll give it a little time to go. But yeah, if you want to have a chance at winning Succubus Kerrigan, go ahead and hit the number 1. It doesn't matter who you are. I don't care if you're Shadow. Yeah, Shadow's in.
I care if you're Shadow.
And in the meantime, while we let people go ahead and enter the contest, and that's one of the great things about joining us in chat, checking us out, talking to us, you might get some free stuff because Jimmy is so Hollywood, he just throws down money like nobody's business.
Exactly.
Stay tight, everyone. We have a patron account. If you want to donate, as little as $1 a month, and it gives you priority into our after-show games. You can donate to the cause. We have hidden costs, mics, streaming, all that stuff, hosting, things like that. It adds up, and we do this as a free service. You cannot donate. You're still going to be able to download and listen every week. It's no big deal. But the main thing about Patreon is that it shows us that you care, and we really like seeing that. So if you donate any amount of money, we really appreciate it. Being a patron is rewarding. We're working on doing various tier rewards. We have some old ones that we never really hit the milestone for. We might rework them in the future, excuse me. But Jimmy, why don't you go ahead and give people the link to the Patreon and explain what you think about it?
Yeah, patreon.com/heroespowerhour. There we go, into the chat. And it just helps us. Oh, I think I spelled it wrong. Oh, well. Anyways.
Hashtag one job,
Jimmy. Yeah.
Oh, the return of One Job Jimmy?
Oh, yes. Yes, I
Been a
screwed
while.
up. Sorry. Oh, my gosh. Anyways, if you feel so inclined to donate to us, it helps us out with our costs. I need to not reach out anymore. On running the show, it's not free to do. There's a lot of hardware involved. Microphones, computers, die, all that stuff. Helps us deal with those hardware issues that come up every so often with running a podcast and a stream. And yeah, just any help you can give us is really appreciated. For as low as $1, we will guarantee you a spot in our play games that we do after the show every week on Tuesday nights, which is right after the show, so really coming up right now. And yeah, just really appreciate your contributions, and it really helps us out, and it means a lot to all of us on the show.
Yes, we love you all so much. And be sure you're checking out heroesofthestorm.blizzpro.com. We have all kinds of great things. We have our weekly sale and hero rotation article, which goes up every Monday or Tuesday. We have Alebeard writing great guides for players trying to get good at the game, or seasoned veterans who need some pointers that tip the scales in their favor in the right direction. Last week he wrote an article about shot calling and how to follow a shot caller, identifying a shot caller, even in a setting as unprofessional as Quick Match, which we all know is the worst. And you can see our builds that we write. Me and Zex are generally pushing out a build every Thursday. I wrote a Rhaegar build last week. He's going to write a build this Thursday. And you can always go to heroesofthestorm.blizzpro.com to see that. Zex? What do you got going for the hero build next week?
I'm going to be writing a build on how to make your opponents hate you and possibly send you hate mail. It's going to be a Li Ming build.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm already mad at him, everyone.
Oh my gosh.
So we've probably got everyone that's going to enter. Mitch the Goat winning that Succubus Kerrigan skin from Hollywood Jimmy. That was so nice of Jimmy.
Congratulations.
The sucky bus.
Succubus.
Succubus.
And
Do
that's
I have
pretty
that
much
skin?
it.
I think I have that skin.
I don't think I have
No, I do have that skin.
Do you?
And I didn't even buy it. I hate Kerrigan.
Oh, man.
Like a friend bought some computer parts and got a bunch of Heroes of the Storm stuff, and she just started sending it to me. And I'm like,
Oh, funny.
So, Mitch the Goat, get good at Kerrigan, pick that skin, find Willie in the Nexus, and body him. And punish him for not liking that skin. And remind him, you were in the chat, and you won that skin, and you honed your skills, and now you're just beating up on Willie and his silly little chin. So, anyway... That's going to do it for episode 49 of the Heroes Power Hour. We have fun as always. Be sure to stay in chat if you want to play some games with us, and stay tight. Good night.